Okay, part 9. Off to buy winter clothes. The plan was to meet up at the Gilberta Company at Third Bell, then go clothes shopping. Benno called me and Lutz over a bit earlier than that so we could talk about winter prep. What do you want to do, Julie? I asked. Won't this conversation be boring to you? She can talk to Karina about winter handiwork, said Benno, which made Tully's blue eyes sparkle with happiness. Benno rang his bell, and a maid came out the inner door, who then took the excited Tully upstairs. Anyway, continued Benno, as of this morning, I've got 2 pigs and 2 butchers ready to go. You'd have a lot of problems with just a bunch of newbies around, yeah? Really? Already? You're so fast, Benno. I can't believe it. I clapped and showered Benno with praise, to which he responded with a confident grin and his head raised in pride. I was about to order a bunch of tools from him, so now was the time to butter him up. You're amazing, Benno. Incredible. You'd be even more amazing if you lowered the price. Not a chance, idiot. Ha! You gotta be more subtle than that, mine, added Lutz. My attempt to lower the handling fee had ended with both of them looking at me like I was an idiot. Seems like the smokehouses are mostly going to be empty for the next 10 days. Most people want to smoke their meat as late as possible to make it last longer. When do you want this to happen? When it came to preserving meat for winter, there definitely weren't many people who wanted to start early. In my neighborhood, most people didn't start until right before the first sign of snow. With our storage room being chilly somewhat like a refrigerator, the main problem was less than food spoiling and more just using it for meals too early. The food might run out halfway through winter if you weren't careful. 3 days from now, please. That's when both Tad and Tully have a day off. Alright, I'll plan it around it happening 3 days from now. Then. I ordered the tools way back when we decided to do this together, so I have most of them ready. Use what you have at home, and I'll lend you whatever else you need. Thanks. Also, this is what the orphanage will need for winter outside of firewood and wood. Or firewood and food. I handed Benno a board. He glanced over the list and groaned with a grimace. It sure is a lot. This is the first time they're preparing for winter, so we're basically starting with nothing. And there was a lot of people there, too. If they've managed with nothing up until now, why bother preparing the stuff at all? Asked Lutz, and I gave a pained smile. In truth, that had been my initial plan for the orphanage. I had thought it would be fine to just get firewood and food this year and then slowly get whatever else they needed over time. The problem is, my parents weren't happy about me staying in the temple over the winter. Now I need to get all this stuff ready. Yeah, you do pass out and end up in sick in bed a lot, observed Benno. Your family's not wrong to be nervous about sending you off on your own. Your chambers are definitely lacking a lot of little things you needed to live there, added Lutz. Meals wouldn't be a problem since I was already eating lunch there, but I was missing a lot of daily life stuff I would need for bathing and sleeping. I didn't even have things like towels or sheets, and my bed had a mattress but no blankets. Stuff from home wouldn't fit in that room at all, and I would still need it all whenever I went home, so I had no choice but to buy new stuff. Sadly, my room didn't have a winter carpet to lay on the floor either. I was told that the one left by the last resident had gotten moldy in their absence and was no longer usable. Ew. Mine, need me to lend you money? Offered Lutz. No thanks. You shouldn't lend money to friends if you can help it. That kind of thing runs the risk of destroying a friendship. Yeah. Fran came with my other attendants after Third Bell rang. They were all wearing gray jackets on top of their outside clothes. Their jackets were simple enough that they wouldn't stick out at all if they had different scars or gloves. But since they were all wearing the same jacket of the same color, they stuck out immensely. The faster you buy clothes, the better, huh? Observed Lutz. Yep, I feel like should just buy coats for them instead of outfits. A coat will be warm enough that they would wear their priest stuff beneath it without a problem, I suggested, which made Benno shout with his dark red eyes wide in surprise. Not a chance. That's not good enough. Buy them all a full set of clothes. I know. I just wanted to say it. Yeah, right, you were serious and I know it. Benno read my mind as I averted my eyes and went to go outside while Lutz went up the stairs to get Tully. Everyone gets a set of clothes. You too, Tully. Just look for something you want. Okay. Tully and Delia skipped away excitedly and began picking out clothes, squealing among themselves as they looked over the children's outfits. Lutz and Gil were similar in height, so they started searching for clothes together too. Rosina, as a teen, was quietly looking for clothes elsewhere on her own. Are you certain about this, Sister Mine? Asked Fran nervously. I did the math in my head and nodded. I had enough money left to buy clothes from here. With the math done, I glanced at the bag Fran was holding. The clothes here are cheap enough for it to not matter. If it gets to be a problem, I could just sell the books. Why don't you go pick out some clothes for yourself too, Fran? You can even wear them in your room when it gets cold. This was one of the few opportunities where I could act like a proper master, so I at least wanted them to enjoy today. Fran's eyes wavered with worry. I am not certain on what basis I should pick my clothes. When it came to his master, Fran could pick proper clothes based on where they were going, the season, their business, who they were meeting, and so on. But when it came to his own clothes, he was stuck. Fran was awkward when outside of his element, and it was up to me to teach him how to pick clothes for himself. First, look for things that fit you. Then look at what they're made of. It's winter, so you'll want warm clothes. When you've found warm clothes that fit you, I'll pick the clothes that suit you the most. I would be honored, said Fran, overwhelmed. I smiled at how out of his element he was, which somehow made me remember what Mom was saying yesterday. Fran, my mom would like to meet you. When would be a good time for that? I told him that my mom wanted to see my room and make sure I would be safe over the winter, which made Fran lower his eyes with worry. Sister mine, I would advise that you stop her. I mentioned this before, but there are many in the temple who do not look well upon pregnant women and families. Delia will be particularly sensitive due to her history in the orphanage, and you would be giving the High Bishop information that would be wise to keep from him. If she wishes to meet me, I will visit her myself. That's true. I'll tell Mom about that. After looking at Delia beaming as she picked out clothes, I gave a slow nod and kept browsing the adult men's section with Fran until eventually Benno strode over. So you're going to be stuck in the temple all winter, huh? That's right, I can't wear the cheap clothes in the temple all winter, can I? Of course not. You're going to be clothes for relaxing, clothes for when other people visit, pajamas, and clothes for going outside. You're going to want to go for some unreasonably high-quality underclothes, too. Not to mention thick socks. The temple's going to be freezing in the winter. Well, it's also expensive. Why do I need to care about how fancy my underclothes are? The only people who are going to see them are her attendants, but still. You don't want them to see raggedy-ass underwear and stuff? Good God, girl, are you stupid? Nobody's going to see them. I might as well buy cheap No! I just wanted to focus on the outside, but Benno's eyes flared wide with anger. Idiot. Don't let your guard down anywhere. And you're already sickly as it is. You need to wear as many good layers as you can. So basically, buy as many clothes as I can wear. I would need several pairs if I was going to wear them on top of each other. That wouldn't be a problem if I were buying cheap clothes from my usual secondhand shop. But pairing multiples of the same outfit for the temple will be pretty expensive. Yet another blow on my wallet. My winter preparations were going to cost more than anything else. You can buy the cloth for your underclothes from my store and have your mom or Thule sew them together. They're good at that, yeah? Yes, but I don't have the funds to buy that many pairs of clothes. Benno, when we get back to your store, please buy 5 of the books I showed you the other day. Adding on new pairs of underclothes put me completely over budget. I don't get why you're not just printing more. You can make as many as you want as long as you've got ink and paper, yeah? Well, we actually only had that one chance to print them. I hung my head sadly, thinking of my failure. Benno raised a confused eyebrow, and I explained when the ink dried, the template curled up, and it ended up useless. The art was built on the back of precise cuts, and unlike metal and wood, we can't just wipe off the ink. So once it dries, we just can't use the template anymore. It required a large number of pages to make all the picture books. I was planning on printing more if the 30 test books ended up well, but the templates were ruined. It was such a devastating waste of money, waste of good art that I wanted to cry. I now know that I have to prepare a bunch of paper and print all the books at once. You could just order some paper from my workshop if you need more, you know. No thanks, that's too expensive. I'll keep buying the stuff Let's Makes in the mine workshop. I puffed up my cheeks and Benno grinned. I told you that one's mine! Suddenly we heard Les and Gil yelling at each other as they ran through the store. Despite dealing in second-hand clothing, this was still a high-class establishment. Benno's eyebrows twitched. Mine, go settle them down. I walked to where Benno was pointing and found Les and Gil engaging in a shouting match. Due to their similar heights, they ended up wanting the same pair of clothing. Gil, Les, you're being too loud. You need to be quiet when you're in public. When I finally reached them, they ran up to me holding onto the same pair of clothing they wanted. Mine, who do you think this would look better on? Me, right? Yelled Les. No, it'd look better on me, right, Sister Mine? Shouted Gil. They both stomped toward me with terrifying looks in their faces. I looked at the blue jacket in their hands and let out an exaggerated sigh, shaking my head. It wouldn't look good on either of you, I said, which neither of them expected. They shut their mouths with their eyes wide. I wasn't talking about the design, though. It was just that blue clothing would look especially chilly in the winter, especially given how light their hair was. A jacket would look fine in summer, but not really in winter. Remember what Benno told you, Lutz? Some colors look warm, some look cold. What kind of color is this? What kind of color would be good to wear in the cold winter? Lutz gulped, gasped in realization, then let go of the jacket. Gil, still holding it, tilted his head in confusion. Gil, you should put that back and try matching this red jacket and brown pants instead. Don't they look warmer? All right, I'll try that. Gil turned around to put away the blue jacket. Lutz slumped his shoulders a bit sadly and looked at the clothes I had picked up. The caramel-colored jacket seemed thin at first glance, but the raised nape on the inside should make it pretty warm. Lutz, these dark brown pants would definitely look good on you. Then you can match it with either this yellow jacket or this green jacket. They're made of different materials, so just pick while keeping in mind you'll be wearing them near your home. That only gives me one choice. Let's grab the camel jacket and glared at me. Green cloth tended to be fairly expensive, so nobody wore green clothing around where we lived. Yep, with that in mind, blue would have been even worse for you, right? Let's bit his lip in frustration and put on the jacket. It was a bit big on him, but that was ideal considering he'd be wearing layers, and that he'd want it for next year too. The nape on the inside must have been pretty warm, given that his expression immediately softened. As Let's settled on his camel jacket, Tuli came over heading a dress in each hand. Hey, mine, which of these dresses do you think is best? One was a deep green dress with vibrant flower embroidery. The other was a simple navy blue dress. Personally, I wanted to see Tuli wearing a white apron on top of the navy blue dress, kind of like a maid. Tuli, why did you pick these two? This one is cute. Like, the colors and embroidery are just amazing, aren't they? It'll match my hair, too. But the other one is really nice and super warm. She had lived a practical life up until now that drew her to the warm navy blue dress, but she actually wanted the deep green dress. I think you'll stand out if you wear the cute one, but you can wear a coat over it during the winter. If you always wear something above it, I think you can pick whichever you want. I would go for warmth over cuteness, but you like the cute one more, don't you? This is so hard. In my opinion, buying clothes she liked would be better for her to hone her fashion sense. But it was hard for her to pick fashion over practicality considering her upbringing. Sister mine, I want these clothes, declared Delia. She came skipping over to me with a pair of cute pink clothes in hand. She even had a warm-looking coat. Very cheeky, making me pay for a coat, too. But she looked so happy I didn't feel like commenting on it. Today, I was putting my wallet on the line. Okay, consider them yours, Delia. I thank you ever so much, sister mine. Delia let out a happy hummel, looking at her clothes with a broad smile, happiness practically radiating off her. Making her this happy was definitely worth spending a bit extra. I haven't even wanted to learn how good it felt to dump money on a cute girl, but it was too late to go back now. The sight of Delia loving her cute clothes seemed to give Tuli the inspiration she needed. She thrust out the green dress toward me. Mine, I'll go with the cute one. Okay, you shouldn't buy a coat here, since it'll stick out in the neighborhood and at your job. Pick a warm scarf or shawl instead, plus some for Mom and Dad, too. Okay, thanks, mine. After seeing Tuli run off happily, I headed over toward Rosina. She had seemingly already picked out her clothes, judging by the rogue dress in her hand, but she was staring at a plain navy blue dress. It was such a plain dress that maybe even Wilma would want to wear it, even though she had said she would rather have art utensils than clothes. Rosina, maybe Wilma will wear that dress? I would imagine not. She says she did not want any clothes as she is unable to go outside. She has grown capable of occasionally visiting the workshop, but in that sense she would prefer cheaper clothes that could be dirtied freely. It seems that the idea of dressing up makes Wilma feel nauseated. I thought that it was a waste for someone as pretty as Wilma to not dress up, but if she didn't want to, that was that. There is no need for you to be upset, sister mine. The fact that she now goes to the workshop with the children is immense progress for her. Rosina gave a soft smile, and we headed to the counter where Benna was waiting. Along the way, we found Fran standing stock still in front of the men's section, probably due to the store's demographic. There were more clothes for adult males than anything else. Fran was completely dumbfounded by all the choices. Have you made up your decision, Fran? Sister mine. Fran turned around wearing a rare, pitiful expression. He was kind of cute when he was at a loss for what to do. Oh god, it's so adorable. You have a calm personality, so I think something simple will be best for you. Like this or this. If you want to be a bit more fashionable, then this or this. At this point, you might as well pick for me, sister mine. Fran's weak tone made Rosina's eyes sparkle. She stepped forward, her chestnut hair bobbing. It seems you have your own weakness that you must conquer, Fran. Rosina, I said, I can tell you're enjoying being in charge of Fran for once. I would merely like to be of help to Fran as well. Then I will leave his clothes to you. I've already stated my thoughts. Sister mine, choked out Fran as I left him with Rosina, who was giddy with excitement. I saw everyone's clothes stacked on the counter by Benno, but nobody else was there. What? Benno, where's Les and the others? Yeah, they were being noisy, pain in the neck, so I told them to pick out clothes for you. You're gonna need at least 2 or 3 sets of clothes for your room, not to mention an outfit for formal occasions and an outfit for going out. Yeah, pick whatever you want from what they get. I'm sure it'll all be good stuff. Let's and Tuli were in fierce competition since they had tied last time, whereas Delia and Gil were just participating since they were in my attendance. God, this is gonna be so expensive. Clothes for me cost the most, you know. Of course they do. You're dressing like a noble. People are already ticked that a commoner is wearing blue robes. Don't make things worse by dressing like a poor person. Benno's argument was so right that I couldn't do anything but hang my head sadly. As I desperately tried to work out the cost of everything in my head, Tuli and Let's brought close to the counter while practically gnashing their teeth at each other. How were these mine? They had brought blouses, skirts, and vests made of thick fabric. It seemed that they had looked for things other than dresses due to the lesson they learned last time. Then Delia and Gil brought more clothes on top of that. Sister mine, said Delia, these are all really cute. They are sit-down dresses and tunics. It was important to remember that there weren't many children's clothes that were my size. Thus, pretty much every single piece of clothing in the store that fit me was now spread out on the counter. As I thought about which to pick while all four of them stared holes into me, Fran and Rosina came to the counter as well, having picked out their clothes. When I told them I was picking clothes for myself, they had laid down their judgment on one outfit after another. These clothes will be best for walking around the temple, said Rosina. There is the spring prayer and spring, of course. You will be leaving the city with the high priest, so you will need clothes of this class to match his. This and this will do, observed Fran. Oh, so you're okay with helping with other people's clothes but not your own? What am I saying? Of course he's not. Fran and Rosina selected the clothes I would need to live in the temple without any input needed from me. I appreciated having such reliable attendants, but my wallet was in big trouble. No! I yelled on the inside, at which point Benno gestured Lutz over with a finger before whispering in his ear. Lutz's expression lit up and he clapped his hands. I'll buy your clothes for you, mine. Lutz! Benno, what'd you tell him? I barely glared at Benno, only for him to snort derisively and look at Lutz with amusement. Half of my money is coming from your inventions, and I never paid you back for helping my family get back in shape, Lutz said. It might not be good for friends to lend each other money, but there's nothing wrong with giving gifts, yeah? So yeah, do that. Get around that little loophole there. Lutz puffed out his chest with pride, but this was a bit expensive for a simple gift, not to mention that not even in my Arano days had I ever experienced a guy buying clothes for me. I faltered, not knowing what to do, and Benno pushed Lutz forward with a grin. Turning down a man's gift in public would shame him for life, mine. Don't do that to poor Lutz, said Benno in a teasing tone, but it was true that rejecting Lutz here would be immensely embarrassing for him. I couldn't think of any clever ways to gently turn him down. I looked around for help, but Delia just put her hands on her hips and yelled at me. Geez, Sister Mine, you just need to accept his gift with a smile. Girls are supposed to let men support them. They actually like that. Delia, please, shut up. Putting it like that made me sound like a shallow girl who was just exploiting Lutz. That was even harder to accept the gift. I cradled my head in despair, and Lutz tapped my shoulder while showing his guild card. Give it up, I've already finished paying, all right? When did Lutz become a social genius? Share some of that grace with me. Benno was ruffling Lutz's hair and telling him he did a good job. I couldn't help but feel his influence over Lutz was growing by the day. Yeah, Benno's going to be another father figure for him, I think. So Lutz has two father figures, his actual father and Benno. Actually three, considering Mark as well. Disappointed in myself for having no social grace despite Rosina giving me a noble's education, I finished buying clothes for Tuli and my attendants. My attendants took turns changing into their clothes in the changing rooms, putting their old clothes in a basket. My clothes were going to stay in the temple, so they split them amongst themselves to pack away. While everyone's attention was focused on the clothes, I stood next to Lutz. Thanks, Lutz, that was a big help. Really. Don't sweat it. Benno pointed it out to me before. It seemed that Benno had pointed out to Lutz that despite the fact we were splitting the profit from the paper, picture books, hangers, and diptychs, 50-50, I was always covering the entire initial investment myself. He told me not to mention it until you noticed or got stuck in a bind, but I'd say you were definitely in a bind here, yeah? I didn't make it at all. I didn't notice it at all. And so I took the equivalent of half the initial investment funds I had spent from Lutz to buy sheets, cloth for underclothes, and everything else I would need to have a warm winter. Then we finished our winter shopping after loading up on winter clothes for the orphans and buying some minor stuff we would need. Hold on. And let's keep going. Butchering in absence. The day after we went shopping, the mine workshop kids helped us carry the goods Benno ordered to the temple. The kids, wearing their new thick clothes, piled the goods on newly purchased carts and traveled between the orphanage and the Gilberta Company. Half of it went to my chambers, but a lot of it was for the orphanage too. They were also bringing in tools that would be used for the pig butchering. Take out the goods here and give anything for the director chambers to Gil. Then take firewood and food to the basement of the girls' building, and take firewood and tools to the basement of the boys' building. Fran checked the contents of each cart as it arrived and directed where they were to be brought. They weren't spread right equally since the girls' building had the kitchen, whereas the boys' basement had been turned into the mine workshop. Wilma was managing the preserved food and managed the key that kept the door to it locked. Everybody would suffer if the orphanage ran out of food midway through winter. The Grey Priests and Shrine Maidens were taking the goods to their respective basements, and the children were helping while chatting excitedly. Let's started to speak while watching them. My family said they'd help with the orphanage's pig butchering too. Dad hasn't come out and said it, but I think he kind of feels like he owes the High Priest. Well, duh. considering it was the high priest that helped with this whole family situation. Despite the fact that Deed was stubborn and tight-lipped, it seemed that he was grateful to the high priest for providing him with an opportunity to talk things out. But the high priest's a noble, yeah, there's not much we can give him as thanks, so Deed's gonna help the orphanage instead. One thing led to another, and now my whole family's helping. Your whole family? Isn't Deed going a bit too far? Lutz's immediate family consisted almost entirely of men, which would be a big help here, but I was a little worried about whether or not everyone would be enthusiastic about helping the orphanage. Don't sweat it, my brothers didn't seem worried, and Mom was all for helping too. I think things might just go well with your family helping, Lutz. Now I'm looking forward to the pig butchering. I gave a happy laugh, but Lutz just looked at me with a grimace. Why do you think you're going too? You always get sick around this time of year, and last time you got a fever in the cart and had to be rushed back to the gate. No way are we going to bring you to a butchering filled with newbies. That makes sense, but my mom's pregnant, and I'll be a big sister next year, so I wanted to participate this time for sure so I could learn how it works. I feel like I could finally dig out an animal's guts without crying at the sight of the bloody corpse, and yet they were saying I couldn't go at all. Well, you're a freaking apprentice blue shrine maiden girl. You can't do that anyway. It was too cruel. I'd even planned to go so that I could learn to help the neighborhood butcher a pig while the time came. It's not going to happen. You wouldn't be able to work there with the orphanage people around anyway. And you'd get a fever for sure if you watched them work outside all day. How are you going to make the hide glue stuff if you're sick? Let's list it off reason after reason why I couldn't go. The sad thing was I couldn't argue at all. You're staying home, mine. Use that time to figure out how to fix your money problems. This is like, what was it you said? The right person for the right job. I've dug my own grave. On the morning of the pig butchering day, my family and Lutz's family gathered at the well to talk things over. Things ended with me, Dad, and Thule heading to the orphanage. That way they could get me to where I was staying while Dad and Thule organized the orphans, got what they needed from the orphanage, and led them to the pig butchering grounds. Lutz headed to the meat store as an apprentice of the Gilberta Company, and then went to the farming town with the butchers, while his mom and my mom went to the town first to prepare the smoking building, draw water, and so on. Now then, please split into your groups and begin today's work. The butcher group will push the cart and depart. The home group will clean the temple and orphanage, then prepare soup for dinner. Fran split those in the orphanage into two groups. All adult Grey priests were participating in the butchering, excluding a few to watch over the kids. Dad, be sure to bring back all the pig skin for me. I need it for the hide glue. I can survive without the bones or organs, but the skin is absolutely vital. Do everything you can to get it. I emphasized how important to me the skin was, and Dad patted my head while grinning. Yeah, you got it. Just sit nice and pretty in your room for me. Make sure not to get sick, okay? Dad, Lutz said you've got some important work to do after this, yeah? I know, that's why I'm staying here, even though I really want to go with you guys. Having said everything I wanted to, Dad, I headed to the carts where Thule and the orphans were piling equipment. Thule, take care of Delia for me. Uh-huh, we'll work hard together. Thule smiled at Delia, who raised her eyebrows and glared at me. Sister mine, why do I have to go with them? I want you to see the world outside the temple. Rosina and Wilma were staying at the temple with me, while every other attendant of mine was going to the butchering. Delia hated it, but she didn't have an option here. I wasn't making her go to the orphanage or anything, and now was a good time for her to bond with the other kids. She barely interacted with them otherwise, but she had gotten along with Thule while shopping, so I couldn't imagine her ending up alone, especially with Gil and Fran around. Mine, said Thule, what are you going to do while we're gone? Make new picture books. Rosina and Wilma will be there to help me. They both have pretty handwriting, and I need Wilma to draw the art for me. Rosina was my Heartspiel teacher first and foremost, but everyone who saw her handwriting complimented her on how beautiful it was, which made her the perfect candidate for helping me with the next picture book. Since all my male attendants were leaving, Wilma would be coming to my chambers to help. While she was at it, she would bring two girls skilled at cooking to train them in the kitchen in preparation for winter. Rosina and I went back to my chambers after seeing everybody off. We practiced the Heartspiel for a bit, then Wilma arrived with the two girls. Now then, Nicola, Monica, please study well so that you might learn to cook delicious food. After giving them encouragement, I directed Rosina to take them to the kitchen. Sister mine, began Wilma, as most blue priests are absent during the harvest festival, divine gifts will be quite lacking. Many priests bring their chefs with them, and some of them who remain will cook unsatisfactory meals due to knowing that their master will not be eating them. The following 10 days would have been beyond miserable if we could not make soup for ourselves. Wilma's words sent a shudder down my spine. Given the shortage of blue priests, I would be the only blue robe at the temple for the entire duration of the harvest festival. Everyone else had been sent to some farm town or another. If they all brought their chefs with them, there would be no divine guests for the orphanage. There used to be many more blue priests, continued Wilma, such that half would leave and the divine gifts would only be diminished by half, and the remaining chefs would not be lazy so as not to embarrass their master in front of the other blue priests. But as it is now... She sighed and lowered her gaze. She then gently opened her brown eyes and looked at me with her usual peaceful smile. We are able to provide for ourselves thanks to you, sister mine. We no longer have to sit and do nothing as children starve beneath us. You have my eternal gratitude for preparing the orphanage for winter. If there is anything I can do for you, please do not hesitate to ask. With that said, Wilma climbed to the second floor and immediately began spreading her utensils on the table. Is this your next story? Yes, it's called Cinderella. I readied my harpspiel and began practicing as Wilma read the story. I had my third practice song to master, as well as another song of my own creation. My personal song this time was the classic German song, The Fox That Stole the Goose, known in Japan as Kogitsune, meaning fox cub. I had technically replaced the fox with a rabbit to match the local wildlife, but don't worry about that. It has been a long time since I have heard music, mused Wilma. Can you play a harpspiel as well, Wilma? On an amateur level. You are so familiar with Rosina's music that it would be an offense on your ears to hear me play, said Wilma with a smile. But she was no doubt better than me. I was still a complete beginner. Rosina's so good, I have to question what exactly an amateur level is. I would appreciate hearing you play so that I might have a better idea. It is truly nothing special, I assure you. So she said, but she was clearly happy to have the opportunity to play music again. She took the large harpspiel Rosina played with a blissful expression on her face. The music that flared off the plucked strings reflected Wilma's personality well, carrying with it a soft and pleasant tone. When mixed with Wilma's gentle voice singing a lullaby, it literally came close to putting me to sleep. Your music is as soft as always, Wilma, observed Rosina. Perhaps that is because I lack your talents and choose slower songs when available. As I listened to their friendly chat, I found myself floored by just how much talent was expected from me. If Wilma was an amateur, the noble children must all be professional musicians. Would it be fair to assume, I ventured, that this means you are as good at art as well, Rosina? I learned as much as I was taught, shall we say. Considering how good Wilma's amateur music was, I could guess that Rosina was a skilled artist as well. The degree to which Christina's attendants were trained showed just how abnormal of a shrine maiden she really was. Harpspiel practice ended at third bell, and we moved on to Cinderella. Now that Wilma had finished reading it, we could discuss which illustrations to put in it. It will be difficult to properly represent Cinderella's beauty, I believe. Having only one color to use for the skin is quite a shame, observed Wilma. Is the skin so important? Could we not make the stepmother and stepsisters ugly in shape and size, I asked. That wouldn't do. Any woman fit to be a noble's second wife must be beautiful. The stepmother and stepsisters were meant to contrast with Cinderella's beauty. I would rather reality not be brought into it. As I fell into thought, Rosina looked over the story and made a suggestion. Sister mine, would it not be better to simply remake the template for the children's Bible rather than worry over this new story? I believe it is still too early for you to write stories about the nobility. At the very least, it would be best for you to grow more accustomed to the ways of the temple first. The high priest's criticism was harsh enough, but now even Rosina was pointing out that I was painfully ignorant of noble society. I mean, personally, I would like to get Cinderella made so I could see whether people will accept a normal story. Sister mine, that is something you cannot say until you know how to write a normal story in the first place. Rosina shook her head as Wilma chided her for being too harsh, which meant, in other words, Wilma didn't think Cinderella was a normal story either. Is Cinderella not a normal story? A normal story is about the founding of a kingdom, about knights, or about the gods. I have never heard of a story like this Cinderella before, said Rosina. It seemed that all the stories she had heard under Christine's tutelage had been expressed through art, music, and even poetry based on the stories. In other words, I would need to learn more about that before I could write a picture book that would be accepted by the nobility. Between the children's Bible and Cinderella, which do you think the nobility would be more likely to accept? The children's Bible. It is knowledge essential for any child to know, and it is composed in a very easy to understand way. The firmness of Rosina's reply convinced me to abandon Cinderella. Making a book that might not be accepted wouldn't be wise when I could make one guaranteed to sell well instead. In that case, I will give up on Cinderella. We can craft another children's Bible instead. Rosina, would you tell me these normal stories of yours later? I would like to make them into picture books. They are necessary for your education regardless. I will gladly tell them whenever you wish. We took one children's Bible apart and split the pages in half to separate the text from the art. We then placed the art on top of the thick paper that we were going to use for Cinderella's template and cut out the black parts. That should result in an art identical to what we had before. Rosina and Wilma got right to work cutting out the art once they got Let's precision knife from the workshop. Sister mine, please cut out the letters as you did last time. Rosina offered me a job with a smile, and I nodded. She had quickly learned that I lacked the precision necessary to cut out the detailed art. Rosina might be way better at cutting out pretty lines, but that's just because my hands are small. I'll be super dexterous when I grow up. I pretended not to remember that in my Arano days I had been clumsy all the way into adulthood. Ooh. That sucks for you. The orphanage's dinner was finished before 6 bell. Nicola and Monica left the kitchen looking exhausted, having assisted a professional chef for the first time. Rosina sent the chefs on their way after informing them that the food would be taken to the orphanage once Fran returned. They seem to be late, said Rosina. Pig butchering takes a lot of time. They'll likely be arriving back just as 6 bell rings and the gates begin to close. I replied while looking out the window. The sky was gradually darkening as the sun fell. In past years, when my family waited until it was colder to butcher pigs with the neighborhood, they hadn't gotten home until the sun had completely set. It would still be a bit before they got back. Which was the thought on my mind when Delia arrived back in my chambers out of breath. Probably due to running back, or perhaps due to the cold, her cheeks were red as apples. Welcome back, Delia. Did you get a lot of meat? Of course, winter won't even be a problem with that much meat. I had been worried about Delia, so I let out a sigh of relief when she came back in high spirits. She had returned first to get me changed, while everyone else carried the butchered pig meat to the cellar. Delia raved about how sausage was made and the different kinds of cutting techniques of the butchers while she changed me. Then we took a bunch of the pickled meat we had in the orphanage and hung it upside down to get it smoked. It's so weird that smoking makes it last longer, and then it seemed that Delia going outside and participating in the butchering with everyone had been good for her. If this marked the beginning of her spending time with the other kids, I couldn't be happier. Sister Mine, called Fran from the first floor. Lutz said he would like to talk to you about the pigskin. Would you be able to visit the workshop when you are changed? As I had already changed, I went down the stairs immediately. Gil, please guide Sister Mine there. Sure. On the way to the workshop, I could see everyone carrying meat from the carts next to the temple gates down to the basement from the girls' building. Dad and Tuli were mixed into the crowd, too. Holding back the urge to run over and join them, I walked inside the workshop. Mine, what should we do with all the skin? Asked Lutz the second he saw me, pointing at the bundles of skin they had. I looked around the orphanage, then pointed at a bucket. You can go ahead and put it in there. We don't need to do anything to it first. We'll need to put it in lime water to get the hair out, but I don't know how long it needs to soak. Someone will need to watch it, and it's a bit late for that now. I don't even want to think about wasting this skin, said Lutz while I took out his diptych. He then glanced at me with his stylus in hand. That was my sign to start explaining. First, soak the skin in lime water to get rid of the hair. Then peel the inner skin off from the outer skin, which we'll use for tanning later. You've done this before, right, Lutz? I'm not too good at it, though. Lutz shrugged and nodded me on. Only the inner layer is necessary for the hide glue, so I was thinking we could tan the outer layer and use it as book covers. And who's going to tan the leather? Lutz glared at me just like Benno might. We could ask at leather workshop? Hope you have the money for it. He was hitting me where it hurt, so I pretended not to hear him and continued. You then soak the inner layer in even more lime water. Leave it there until it's soft and swollen, which will get the proteins, fats, and so on out. That happens on its own, so you can just let it sit. Then, in order to clean the lime water, wash off the hide and boil the water over a small fire for about 2 bells. 2 bells? That's pretty long, replied Lutz as he ran his stylus over his diptych. This is where things get hard. If you let the water sit at a warmth that's just warm enough to drink, kind of like tea, the impurities will rise and fall, leaving the center clear. We want to use that clear center. I paused, and Lutz looked up from his diptych, confused. How are we going to use just the center part? I'm not sure. Let's see where trial and error gets us. Seriously? Guess we better use a smaller pot then. I knew it would be possible to just remove the impurities off the top, but at the moment I couldn't answer how to do it or how far to go. Anyway, pour the hide glue liquid into a wooden box, set it somewhere where the cold winter wind will hit it, and done. Once it's solid, we'll have our hide glue. There's so much time boiling and soaking that we'll probably be able to make the candles along with it, concluded Lutz, as he looked over his diptych. Alright, we'll make the hide glue and candles tomorrow. We can finish all the stinky work in one go. Sounds good. Let's get this over with. I shot my hand in the air, excited to be making hide glue for the first time. I think I'm done for now. I'll see you guys next time.